Hi, my name is Bruno Zuccala, and I am the Color Guard Coordinator and Assistant Director for the Cavaliers Drum and Bugle Corps of Rosemont, Illinois. In this track, we're going to be looking at the specific technical qualities that will help hopefully maximize your performance in your organization. We're going to go through each piece of equipment. Next segment we're going to look at is the saber technique. The sabers that we use are much larger or a little longer just because, again, of the strength and the look that we want the guys to have throughout the summer. We have a few things to talk about the saber first. Here is a elevated tape mark where they use to, they call it their tape, where they actually initiate things from, catch things, use it as a reference point. It's elevated so that they can't look at it, they just have to feel it. And their second finger is what they use to feel it with most of the time. The hilt of the saber, again, is the part where the black is, and the handle itself. They're going to be able to look at this for timing, for counting the rotation in the air. Also, we have 16 pennies in these sabers because we want them a little heavy. The biggest myth is that the saber and the rifle are pretty much the same. They're actually very, very, very different. You can see that the weight of the saber occurs because of the hilt and where the spin spot is and how that relates to each other. We also talked about the taco hand on the rifle. Well, here we're going to talk a little bit more about this little trough here between the palm of my hand and where my fingers begin. That kind of curves a little bit, and that's where the saber actually begins its spinning from. So let's take a look at it. We're at a right flat. I have my hand at the tape mark. My second finger is there. My left hand is around the hilt. My thumb is extended down the hilt. And again, I'm going to pull the saber apart and make myself look nice and strong. I'm going to make sure that my blade is right at my spin spot. My hands are not actually symmetrical because my left hand is slightly higher than my right hand. My elbows are pulled away from the body. There's separation between my bicep and my rib cage on the left hand and the left arm. Same with the right. You're going to see the separation of my elbow through the rib cage. All right? The thing when I'm talking about the hands, they're not symmetrical because this hand is slightly higher than the right hand. Also, I'm grabbing over with the left, under with the right, and I'm also making sure that I'm pulling it apart again as well. They are the tape mark is on the right side of my body at this point. The hilt is on the left side of my body. Actually, the spin spot is kind of what's pretty much in the middle, which is right there. When we initiate, we don't propel the saber like we do the rifle because the saber automatically has more weight where the initiation is coming from due to the pennies and due to the weight of the hilt. So I don't have to push it like that. With a rifle, remember, I gave a slight propulsion to it. Here, all I'm going to do is open my left hand and let the saber come down. What happens is that I rotate my wrist here, I press my thumb up against it, and I'm also using my fingers on the back side of the saber to make sure that I'm making the tension on each side the same. So again, from the side, I'm actually going to drop the saber and let it stop. Now my free hand can't stay here like this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it come down to the side. So it's 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and I'm stopping it straight up and down. The thing that you want to think about is that you're going to make sure that the hilt, using your peripheral vision, looking down, that your hilt is straight down. Because in a saber block, what the most constant thing is that the hilt is moving together in tandem. All right? When I spin, my first spin gets me to my spin spot. So again, you see my hand here on the tape, and I'm going to lift it up a little so you can see up against my body. You're going to see that I'm starting here, but then as I do my first spin here, my spin spot occurs. I go to the spin spot, which is actually, that balance point, the part where the saber is actually balanced. And you can see that we have much more blade than we have on the hilt side, but this is where the weight is. So that's where the spin spot is, and that's really important to a lot of exercises that we're going to talk about in the next couple minutes. We're going to do 3 counts, 1 and 2 and 3, and we're going to stop straight up and down. This helps to begin the tension, understanding of stops and starts. This also begins understanding where the hilt is. I'm also going to look at going and down and down and down. And every time I say down, you're right, the hilt is going to be on the ground, towards the ground, down to the ground, flat down. Whatever reference you want to make to it, you want to make sure that the hilt is down.
And 1 and 2, down 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7
Common errors are that they catch their saber like this instead, meaning that they under-rotate the spin and my hilt's on the 45 instead of here. Or they do this and the hilt goes beyond, which causes them to be early to the next spin. So you want to really make sure that in that block they're isolating the hilt being straight up and down. And here I can also use the same vocals that the rifles are doing. I'm subdividing 5 and 6 and 7, down, down, and down. Each time I say down, the hilt is down, okay, because that's where my focus is. It's not here because you can see how curved the blade is. It's not going to be the same. Some of the sabers actually, because of their use, get a little more bent, okay, and so this is going to be the most constant, and that's why I'm making a very strong emphasis that that's where you have to watch. I usually begin like I do with rifle, knowing that whatever I do on the right side, I have to do on the left side. Real quick on the left side, I'll just show you real quick. You're going to go 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and. Notice how I just took my right hand away and let it come down. I rotated my wrist. My thumb is extended. My back side of my fingers are pressed inside the blade. And here I'm going to go into my spin spot on 1 and isolate on 3. Down, down, and down. Okay? I'm not opening my hand like I did with a taco with a rifle. I'm keeping my hand much, much, much more closed. And actually my trough is about that big. You can see the space between this finger and my thumb. That's where the saber is going to sit. Okay, right about there. And when I open it, it's probably going to be about that much. Okay, very, very, very slight opening. Because what happens is if you do this, and I'll do it from the front so you can see, if I grab the saber the same way as the rifle, look, you can see how my hilt's turning, my blade's turning. I have no sense of control whatsoever. So I want to make sure that the tension on these blades are all the same. So the back side to the front side is all the way through there. So, once we do that, we go into the different spin ideas. One can be, you can do your, go to the bottom of the blade, which is here. You can spin here, which here you can see that I have to get closer to the hilt. And the only reason why we do different spins is because the spin spot has been established, but then you may have to work between the hilt and the spin spot sometime. If you catch a toss, or you do a flourish, or you do something that's here, I want them to be able to understand what the feeling is. So here, you're going to look at the blade a little closer. These are on the bottom. Then I can go to the top of the blade. So all these things that you do, you can isolate them. You can do 8 this way, 8 this way. You can do them together. And you can see that I'm going bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. If for some reason you don't ever look from the side, you want to make sure that you get those opportunities so that the pitch is very clear. So again, if I'm spinning from the side, I'm looking at the hilt staying two-dimensional. So every time the hilt goes around, I'm looking at it in the same reference point to my body. And I'm just rotating it here right now so you can see that. But if I'm spinning and my hilt goes out this way, it's pretty much like the rifle in this aspect, that I have to press my wrist and forearm down. If the hilt is coming towards me, it's because my forearm is too far away from the ground. I want to pull all that down. So I want to make sure that I'm very clear about my dimensional work around the body. Okay? Some other things that we do, combine spins and also different release points. We do something that works in and out of the hilt. We grab on the end of the hilt and we flick on the release, and then straight up and down or angle, whatever checkpoint you want it to be, and then go into the spin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 7, 8 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8 and 1, 2, grab 3, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8 and 1, 2, grab 3, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, close. From the side, here's the idea here. You want to still keep everything two-dimensional. Notice that I'm catching this in the center of my body, and I'm looking right here now so that it stays flat. 3, 4 and 5, pull it a little bit far away from my body. 4 and 5, keeping it straight. 6, 7, 8, and close. That works actually, the flick, the release, extending my arm down so that I'm not always releasing everything in the flat plane. And I'm also, if I spun, I worked on spinning from here. I got to my spin spot, my under overs, I spun in between, and now I'm working on the hilt. So I'm actually using all of the elements of the saber in my repertoire of basic technique qualities. And those are some things that are very, very important, because an innovative rider, or a rider that has variety, or a rider that wants to challenge their students, they're going to give them opportunities to utilize various weights and balances in the saber. And in the basics block, those are the places where you can isolate those moments and really get the training where it needs to be. You can also look at some flourish exercises. You can pull things this way, round and squeeze, round and squeeze, round and squeeze, back and squeeze, back and squeeze, back and squeeze. You can come to here, over the body this way, keeping it two-dimensional, isolating the arm. You can also do them back here. All those things will work on flexibility, strengthen the forearm, in the wrist, in the fingertips, all the way into the grasp of the hilt. I think the other thing that we need to really take a look at is recovery, so that when an isolated moment happens when they have a problem, they need to know how to recover. So let's say, for example, that I'm spinning and for some reason I get slow, then my isolation around my body says to me, if I'm focused in on the hilt, I need to go back and blend somehow. But don't forget, the other 37 people that I'm in the block with are going to be counting, or they're going to be saying down, 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 or they're going to be saying release, or angle, or flat, or down, or up, or over. And I think when you see the equipment work done by the performers, you'll start hearing all these vocals that are going to help them.
4, 6, 7, 1.
The idea of the counting and the vocalizing is not that the audience hears it, but it's a problem-solving skill for the performer. At this level, you want to be careful that they're not actually mouthing the numbers, so that you're going 5, 6, 7, 8, even though sometimes when they face back field they do that. But there are moments where you know that there's either dudding, or subdividing, or counting, or giving a checkpoint while all of this is going on, just to make sure that they are the most confident and the most aggressive in being able to get through their performance. Let's look at the tosses. Tossing the saber is very, very different. I'm going to put the saber down right away, because you're going to see that from the very beginning, the right hand is going to do similar, the same thing, but you're going to actually pull this up. Sabers are all 3/4 dip, at least for our standpoint, because that's where the balance is much more even. That's where the release tension is much more clear, and this is where we get a much more smooth release. When we release the saber, you're actually going to go through, and I'm going to turn my hand a little bit more towards the end zone so you see it. We call it the cobra. It's going to release this way. It's going to use the weight of the hilt, and it's going to actually flick the release. Remember, the rifle release and the flag release went like this up the track. Well, this is more like a flick, and then from here, then you're going to go out. Now, if I'm going to do it towards you, this is the release would be here, and then I'm going to pull up this way. I'm trying to turn my hand here so you can actually see where that goes. So you get the idea of that cobra, the snake actually, that you get that kind of look. But when you throw, if I'm looking right at the audience, I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to raise my hand up. So my track comes from here instead of from here, all right? And what happens is when I do my cobra, if I lead with my elbow and I go this way, the saber's going to go that way. If I have my arm extended and not bent very much, it's going to go forward. If I actually think about releasing this way, my saber's going to go that way. So we're still working in our foundation of trying to make some of those things happen. One of the things that we do is we do spin, spin, flat, 1, 2, and 3. And then what they do is they go da-da, which means hit the angle, hit the prep, hold the angle, and then release. That's what da-da stands for. It's just an isolated moment that they do within tempo that helps them get ready to release the equipment together. So again, they go here, 1, 2, 3, which establishes the energy in the body. My second finger here is at the tape. My hilt is locked in. You can see that my thumb is right down the hilt. It's not wrapped around the side, because if I wrap it around the side, it's going to be pushed that way. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take it here, and we usually stop here. So that way they see that, you can see that the cobra is being established. Now when I have the saber in my hand, you're not going to see this as much, but you're going to see that my palm is down, and it's usually right across from my shoulder. Depending on the 4, the 5, or the 6, 7, whatever you want to throw, is where this height is going to be in relationship to your body. So again, you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right? 1, 2, 3, out. The word is out, meaning it's out of your hand on that count. And then as it rotates, they're going to catch. Now, here's the thing about the release. You go here, notice where my hilt is. The hilt is on the left side of my body. The hilt is still on the left side of my body. It's not in the center. Remember, in the saber, in the rifle, the fulcrum was always in the center of my body. Here, the spin spot is a little more to my left. So there is a difference, a definite difference, that the spin spot, which is here, all the way to the end of the hilt, is on the left side of my body. So that when I release, so see how this ends up back on the same side? It doesn't, the weight is on that left side of the body. Here's my spin spot, here's the hilt, it's going to come all the way to the end. And again, all this area here is where I'm going to be trying to get it flat. I'm going to get my hand on the tape, I'm going to grasp underneath it, I'm going to squeeze on the catch. So you're going to go 5, 7,
1 and 2, but down. Down, up, 1 and 2 and 3 and down, up, 1, 2, but 3 and out. And only 3 harder on flat. Down, up, 1, 2, but 3 and
out.
2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2.
It's really important to make sure you spend a lot of time going from here to here. And again, without equipment and with equipment. Here, and here when you see the saber come down, you want to make sure that the last second, this right hand's going to come out and it's going to grab on the catch. All those isolated moments, all those blade tosses, hilt tosses, different weights and balances, all those pressure points, spin spots, looking at pitch, looking at timing, looking at verbalizing certain things are all very important. Those pitches on the tosses make the clarity occur to the audience. So if you take a look at this from the side, whether it's the blade toss, okay, or whether it's this isolated toss here, where it stays two-dimensional. Now my blade is going forward a little bit, but if I take my body back more, it's the more I take my body back, the more clear that toss is in the air. You see that? And again, where I am in my development, I don't have to care whether it's dimensional or not, but when I have to be able to give the information to the students, that's what's more important. Okay, and then if I do the regular toss here, I'm still looking at the flatness in the air and I'm checking out the hilt to make sure that it's flat. So again, dimensionality is just as important with the tosses, with the saber, as it is with everything else. So that kind of wraps up the idea about the sabers. I hope that some of this information has helped you in developing your program. All of these things are a process. All these things are things that need to be maintained and developed throughout the season, especially in the off season where you can do the training. I know sometimes it gets monotonous and boring for the students, but I think if you change exercises, add, delete, use music, use body, kind of make it a fun thing here and there, I think that it's really going to help your organization to be stronger and to really make their performances the best that they can be. Thank you very much.